Hello, this is Kylie J.N.S. and today I want to do a quick video on the difference between a governance versus a government. Let me just make sure that the sound is good. Okay. So yes, I want to really talk about like the prefix and suffix of these terms, and then I also want to get a bit into some of the things I foresee regarding the way this system is currently run. And then we're going to just talk about the 12 laws of the universe in relation to governance, and then we'll get into we'll bring that back around to some ideas about the Queen Mothership. So first and foremost, many of you have a basic understanding of what like government and govern means. You know, we learned, I believe, in 8th grade, or is it? Yeah, we learned in 8th grade or 7th grade, one of them about like governmental history or something like that. And so many of you may already be familiar with these terms, but we're going to get a little bit deeper in terms of some of the spells we put on ourselves as society, just with the way, just with the terms and definitions associated with them. And so, first and foremost, let's talk about what the prefix of the word govern means. We'll start there before we get into govern and government and then mint itself. Okay, and so govern means to steer and to pilot. Okay, so it means to have a decisive influence. Okay, and it allows situations where you allow reason to govern, and it's also the ability to exercise authority. So on its face, okay, it's like okay, govern doesn't seem that bad. To have decisive influence over a situation, to steer and to pilot, and so the root word of govern in Middle English is governee. So that's spelled Governe. And so that's from Anglo-Norman and Old French. Okay. And so the Latin root of governo is govern. And that means I steer, I drive. And so that's what the Latin version of that means. Now, the ancient Greek version of govern is kuberneo, which also means I steer, I drive. And so you have this essence of steering and pilot. Now, if you study the law of water and the law of admiralty, this would all start to make sense to you. But we're not getting into the law of water in this particular video. We'll actually be getting into the laws of the universe, not just water. And so there you have it. Govern, to steer, to pilot. Some sort of ship of sort is what we're getting at. And Old French, the etymology of govern means to direct, to guide. Okay. And this is actually derived from the Greek word kebernan, which is different from kerberneo, which means I steer. The French word for governor literally means to pilot a ship, to govern. Okay, so we're looking at to pilot a ship of some sort. You're getting deep here. You can take that to, with me, I bring everything. The law of water is included in the law of in the universe, but obviously when we're talking about a ship, we're talking about a female mothership of the universe. So it's a bit different from admiralty law, the law of money, and a law of water, which is what our government uses. They uses the law of water. So when they're talking about a ship, from their from their etymology, when they're talking about the pilot of ship, they're talking about a female ship vessel that you use in the water. Okay, and so for those who go deep into the legalese and the law of water, that are like literally that is that our whole financial system is based on, by the way, you get to see the how vast this is. I just take it from the Queen Mothership, and we're talking about a literal ship in space, so it's a bit different. So now let's talk about the definition of government itself. Okay, so we're about to go into the Columbia Encyclopedia. You guys can look this up. Let me see if I can actually pull it up for you. Perhaps I can pull this up for you. Government, Columbia. So you can see something in front of you with your own eyes. You know what I mean? Columbia Encyclopedia. Just one moment. Maybe we can find it here. Okay, so this is a pretty large document. Okay. And so the Columbia Encyclopedia just has like thousands of biographies, articles on science, medicine, technology, agriculture, business, history, and art. It includes maps, charts, and diagrams. This is obviously by Columbia University, my alma mater. And so I'll share this. At least you, but we won't be able to actually get inside of the book in this in the screen share, but you at least be able to see the book that I'm talking about. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so that's the book that I'm talking about. And so let's read the definition of government from this book. It means a system of social control under which the right to make laws and the right to enforce them is vested in a particular group in society. Isn't that interesting? So it's letting you know up front, system of social control. This is what government means. Now, mint, obviously, that um, suffix refers to your mind. So put it together. Social mind control, under which they have the right to make law. So who is that? Who they're vested in a particular group in society. Who is that particular group? You ask yourself. Can't you critique? Who puts the law down anytime you try to do something? Ask yourself, who could that be? What is this government of social mind control? What group are they protecting? Are they protecting the average American citizen? Are they protecting the Black Americans? Are they protecting the Hispanics? Are they protecting the white folk? Are they protecting business class, banking class? Like you ask yourself. You ask yourself. You know deep down inside. Are they protecting a particular ethnicity, a particular religion, a particular society? So you have to ask yourself that. So government is, in its own definition, telling you that it's a system of social mind control, guiding the collective consciousness of the mind space of society for a particular vested for a particular group in society, and they have a vested interest in that, and they make the laws and they enforce the laws, and they develop a way to have that right through the law of water, through contract system, through HECA, legalese HECA. So I mean, you guys, I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to um, understand that. And so I'll stop sharing and we'll go into the difference between a governance and government. And so the suffix of ence, ANCE, is to be in a quality or state of. It means quality or state of. It actually can also mean action or process, a furtherance, a performance, a state or condition. So the governance, you know what govern means: to steer or to pilot a ship. And when you add ins to it, you're steering, you're piloting a ship with a specific action, with a specific process for a furtherance, which is a quality and a state of being. Okay. So the Queen Mothership governance, which if you guys want to find more information on that, there is a video, it was a Queen Mothership series, Enterprise Architecture. It's based on a book that I wrote in January of 2023. The first chapter talks about a governance system of the Queen Mothership. Okay, is it a process and state of being in tune with the universe, with the qualities of the divine feminine? Believe it or not, all of your laws are based on water to pilot a ship, which is always female. So the government already runs that way. It already runs off of a bastardized version of the quote unquote divine feminine. However, it's a lot of misinterpreted information. It's a lot of things that clearly are exploitative. And so, with the Queen Mothership governance, in terms of a different system, um it's based on the qualities of being in tune with the universe. So it's you're piloting a ship and you take it's still female, but you're in a spaceship in the universe with the qualities of the divine feminine and the 12 laws of the universe. There's way more than 12 laws of the universe, but we gave this particular universe, planet earth in planet earth in particular, 12 laws that was known for people that, to ponder upon. You didn't have to acknowledge them. However, sometimes ignorance of universal law can kick your ass, to be quite frank. And to be honest, it's been kicking humanity's ass, as far as their lack of acknowledgement and even awareness of the 12 laws of the universe, at least these 12 laws that you guys have access to through the ancient texts of the Kabbalion, the three initiates. But that was the work of Tahuti's order, and that was an ancient interdimensional being from the uh, Atlantean dragon rider bloodline that was sent down here to give you guys that information. Um, and so what you see now is a bastardized version of very ancient um material in regards to government and governance. So now you guys understand what ence means. It's a quality or state of a state or condition, the process of furtherance. What are we furthering? Being in tune with the universe. That is what the Queen Mothership governance is about. Okay. And so again, you can study the Queen Mothership governance part 1. That is literally on YouTube. It's literally, I think I read the chapter verbatim from the book. And also you can get the book, The Queen Mothership Part 2, Enterprise Architecture Guide to Rebuilding Black America, to see an example of governance over government. There are huge differences. Okay. And so why are we talking about stuff like this? Because it's going to become important. You're seeing shifts in the matrix. You're seeing a bunch of glitches. I can't tell you how many glitches I done damn saw. I've literally, I've seen so many glitches. It's unreal. And so there's pretty much this consensus among society in general, among those of us that are aware. You call us the ancient ones, you can call us the chosen ones, you can call us uh regular citizens, whatever, global citizens, humanitarians. It doesn't matter. And we all have different levels of awareness, but many of you guys, millions by the millions, are feeling that shift and feeling that there's a change of guard of some sort, or there's a closing out of a chapter. You can feel that closing out of a chapter of this stage of humanity going on into another stage. And so that's a good thing. And so what's going to happen is you're going to see many of the systems that you hold dear crumble before your very eyes. Crumble before your very eyes. Particularly, you obviously you see some issues going on with the housing market. You see things happening with the economic market has not fully recovered. You have this interest rate hike shit that's affecting the market in general. The ability to borrow for Americans is harder because of those interest rates. And so you see a lot, and then you see like the breakdown with like the education in terms of people wanting to homeschool their children, people not seeing the value of the degree, the obviously student loan bubble, and then you have students not being able to find uh the employment that they deserve. They're underemployed and stuff. So you're going to see breakdowns, um first and foremost, very heavily in the education system, the way that it is, that I foresee. And then you have this repository intelligence stuff, which you guys call artificial intelligence. Then you have that on the horizon. And so there's going to be major shifts. And so humanity For one, they have to raise their collective consciousness, and um, not just collective consciousness, but collective confidence. Humanity has to raise their confidence in seeing their more value and more worth in themselves, because to be honest, you've been treated like cattle. Even when it comes to like fair pay, these companies can pay $35 an hour for minimum wage. And in certain companies, they still paying $15 an hour, $16, $17 an hour. And inflation is still rising. And many people are working 2, 3 jobs. They work in all these hours, and they still can't meet ends meet. They still can't make ends meet. And so that is obviously bullshit. That's obviously crazy. And so humanity should have been demanding some sort of like, okay, y'all got these profits, y'all can pay $35 an hour, even for a minimum wage. That's just the minimum. That's the minimum. If we talking that, let alone UBI, it's like, what's happening with your confidence, and you being ruled socially? You got to be on a lockdown, you got to do this, you got to do that to participate in society, and you don't demand nothing of your government. And I just find that ludicrous. I just find that weird. And that's why, to be honest, if you study the Admiralty law and the definition of government, by law, you as humans literally can't really, the way they had it set up, even with suprahuman rights, which is your natural human rights that exist above all laws, right? Yes, there's different types of human rights. It's deep. Um, Even with that, you go above that, the way they got it set up, uh, because of the way the legalese is worded, they don't have to do anything for you. And so that's why I always was in the process of developing parallel infrastructures in terms of calling things governance over government, in terms of saying parallel infrastructure, of using the terms IPU, parallel. I was doing that very purposely, and using the term even Queen Mothership, very, very purposeful. When I talk about parallel infrastructure, Queen Mothership. And that's why it kind of got me in hot water, because I see things as a master architect. And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to build out this IPU, you have to do that from the mental plane. They know that. They know that for this particular bracket of dimensionality, all is mental, all the universe is mental, all is mental. And so that is why, they kind of clamber down on as far as like the shadow, the shadow band and all. And I don't want to manifest it on myself, but there is very clear that that's a reality for me. And I'm not saying it's the end all be all. It's always going to be that way, but there's certainly like a heavy lid, like, oh, don't look over there. Don't get too many ideas now. Following that woman. And so, that is why with this Queen Mothership, and when I talk about like the law of gender, we go back into the ancient laws of the law of gender based on electromagnetism, one of the governing forces of the universe, and resonance. It's like, and then talking about silence of consciousness based on resonance. If you guys were to actually wise up one day and say, you know what, I think we need to build a governance based on universal laws, is pretty much game over. Universal law trumps the law of water any day. The law of admiralty. You just need people to awaken to that. It's as simple as that. The universe created water. Galaxy created water. So could you imagine? And we about to really release some pretty cool information. For those who catch the codes and want to get out. But yeah, you steering this Queen Mothership. We in space. We're not in water. Space creates water. And so with me doing that Queen Mothership stuff, that was done very again with that chaos intelligence, where it's like, okay, it's this randomness that leads to this inert uniformity, where it's like, okay, where's she going with this? But when you study it on its face and where I break it down, it's like, okay, whoa, how did you do this? And so, education system. Yes, education system, economic system, all of these things are going to take hits the way they currently are until a point where it's self-evident. And so, I came up with an instructional design model recently that I released on November 10th. It was a book that I wrote called AidFez. That is an instructional design model. There are many instructional design models that literally run the education system in terms of your curriculum, in terms of public education, in terms of college, even when you get to the college level. Higher education, K to 12, you have instructional design models that have been developed by the military that literally give you your public education. Some of the design models are called ADDIE. ADDIE was developed about in the 1960s, I want to say. uh and that was it was developed by a particular instructional designer, but he worked with the military to test it. It was the army, I believe. And so after that, ADDIE became like very mainstream, and this is what you were used to build your curriculum under, your lesson plans, your curriculum, and then it disseminates it from the top levels all the way down to a student, kindergartner taking their course. It's high level programming, pretty much. Then you have you have other models, like one is called Dick and Carey, one is called the SAM model. All of these are instructional design models for education. And so, to be honest, I've studied these models, and I have to say that they are antiquated. They were good for the time, and many of the components of them will still be relevant, obviously. But it's like you can't take something from the 1950s and 1960s and try to apply that to 2023 with the in the age of repository intelligence, in the age of going into a whole interdimensional shift in terms of 3D, 5D, 7D, and then think that shit gonna work in the education system. Something has to give. And so, I developed a model with that in mind, based off of what I see uh, as someone that studies systems, a strategist, an intelligence expert. I see the way this is all going to shift in terms of the education system. I see the way it's going to shift. And so the instructional design model that I developed, even, I'll get a little bit into what it is, but I see education going to be decentralized. I see education going to become very personalized, through personalized with the help of repository intelligence to build. Is going to be like the backdrop of what you guys call artificial intelligence, the backdrop of personalizing education in terms of creation of the very content that we want to learn based on our personal desires and interests, based also being able to develop this repository intelligence, being able to develop the content modules instantaneously, or at least maybe you give it a couple of seconds of the LMS system, and it does this little thing, and then it spurs out a whole fucking module. This is eventually where we're going. And so the student will be able to personalize their learning experience within a course. They will be taking a course, and they'll be able to choose from various modules based on the personalization that the repository intelligence will give them. Then you're going to have the peer-to-peer aspect of it. This idea of this hierarchical nature between teacher and student is going to become less relevant in where we're going, because they're going to want that decentralization, and the idea of a peer-to-peer learning is going to be relevant. It's already relevant now. Look how many people go to YouTube to learn massive amounts of shit. People don't go. People, you can learn to do anything on YouTube. They got the what's it? How to do DIY whole thing. DIY was big on YouTube. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. And so you're going to see that DIY mentality. That's the mentality of Generation Z, Generation X, not Generation X, Generation Z, and millennials. Do it yourself. Peer to peer, social interaction, social media type shit. Then this personalization, decentralization, and customization. Okay, so pods of learning, they're going to be in DAOs. They're going to be in DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And it's going to be based on that particular interest. So say for instance, it's going to be based on the interest that that repository intelligence create, based on the emotions and need and demand of the people. So let's say it's a history course. You have a bunch of people interested in, let's say, I'm trying to think of something that is more relevant. The history. I'll just make it real simple. The history of the North Centennial people. Let's say you have people interested in that. So then they would go into a specific DAO. All of this is obviously, this could be digitally, or this can be, on a campus or particular course, whatever. They would go into a DAO that this repository intelligence would then immediately start to create content based on that need, that demand, that interest, and then those emotions. So it would in real time just create the course right then and there. But not only that, you have peers that would contribute to that DAO. You guys are in the DAO of the history of the North Centennial people. Or we can just do the history of indigenous people. Let's just say that's a course. And the history of indigenous people. And we'll cover the specific and whatever that land is by age. This would be a particular course. And you would have your peers contribute to that DAO in the form of their thoughts, their perspective, their sharing of knowledge, their mentorship, as well as forum discussions, any type of forum, live chat. This will all be in that DAO. Okay. Even their experiences. This will all be in that DAO. Then you have the repository intelligence developing and curating all of this content on it, the history of indigenous people. And within that DAO, the student will go in. This is where the personalization come in. Now they would look at a series. They will put they perhaps a survey of some sort, or questions will be asked of that nature. But that human would literally choose, okay, this is the aspect of the history of indigenous aspect that I'm interested in. That repository intelligence would then go on to curate that knowledge in real time. Or you can have it where the content is already created in advance, and the student can choose from that. And then based on the emotions and the demand of that particular course, as the student is filling it out, as the student is going through self-checks, knowledge checks, then the repository intelligence can immediately adapt the information right there on the spot. You're going to have something like that as well. But that is where education is going. It's certainly going that way. And you have within those DAOs, you're going to have your social interaction. You're going to have your silos of consciousness based on resonance. And then in these various DAOs, you got one on history of the indigenous people, for instance. You got one on mathematics. You got one on quantum dynamics, quantum thermodynamics. You got one on quantum mechanics. You can have a DAO on anything, social engineering, whatever. Have the DAO on any damn thing. Within that DAO, you can offer incentives for the students or for the humans to participate in that DAO. That can be in a form of a scholarship. That can be in the form of a token for participation within that DAO. You can give grants, special privileges in the DAO. And also, I would even say actual compensation, like actual compensation for teachers. But the teachers, in a sense, and what's coming for the education system is that this teacher credential is going to be based on reputation in the DAO and your micro skill attainment. And those credentials are actually earned by, say you have a set of criteria within that DAO to be considered an expert. You just give an assessment, some sort of assessment of kind. And then once those results are shared, or once those results will be shared in the DAO, like very ledger based, kind of like a blockchain technology. And in the book, I actually give an analogy of this. And that will allow you to that micro credential will increase your reputation inside of the DAO. It can also, again, translate to actual compensation because you're contributing. Now you're an actual teacher. This way, anybody can become a teacher. And so you're revolutionizing the education system, but it's fair and it's democratized, it's personalized, and it's decentralized. That is what's coming for humanity. No doubt about it. So this would be like, once you get these credentials and you have this reputation in the DAO, perhaps one of those tokens can literally be compensation. You could also, they can also have more privileges to contribute to the DAO, such as voting for a shift in the curriculum changes, voting rights, again, access to certain scholarships, access to certain mentorship opportunities, employment opportunities. This is where the education will go. And so, with the AFES model that I came up with, it does stand. I'll try to show you guys. Matter of fact, yeah, I'll go to Twitter because I actually showed a graph of this. And again, this is a book, so it's like 97 pages long, 93 or 97 pages long. So it's obviously like this graph that I show you won't encompass the entire notion of the things I'm saying here. Okay, I found it. So I'll share my screen. But again, as a prophet, this is where the education system is going to go. No doubt about it. And so we just have to be prepared. I can just see it coming because I've spent so much time in education, so I can see it, But as you can see, here's like the AFES diagram. And so you have the first A stands for analysis. The I stands for intelligence centered design. Strategy, the first D, stands for development. The second D stands for DAO flow. That is where you have this idea of the DAO, this decentralized autonomous organization. The E stands for evaluation. The S stands for strategy. And so it's dynamic, it's agile, but it's not so much linear. It can be. Again, I still need to test this out. Like, we need to actually test this out. But in the middle, you can see the blockchain analogy. And so I'll pull up some more material. Let me see. Where is that? Okay, I need to go here. Just a moment, guys. I just want to share something else here for you guys. At least you can see on the screen the blockchain analogy. But yeah, this is where the education system, no doubt in my mind, is going to go. And so, these instructional design models, they've been tested by the military first before they get disseminated within the education system. And so, I don't know if that's the process of how they would do it now with the new instructional design model, like how they did Addie. And these are old. Addie is like 50, 60 years old, and so AFES is new, but it's like, the process of the testing, it may go to the Department of Education over the military these days. Let me see if I can stop sharing this one and then share this one. And so, yeah, and this book is actually available on academia.edu. So, you guys can also get it there. But, okay, here we go. Okay. Let me see. I hope that's the right one. Nope, that's the wrong one. Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. And so, this is where it's going. This is what I can see. And that comes in terms with like that, in terms of like this governance aspect of this. This AFES was designed based on the governance and the laws of the universe. And so you can see that here. We won't get too much into this because that's not really the topic of the video, to be honest. I just I just got like a little excited because this is new and my mind is still like grasping and building this out. And so that's just one thing I see in technology. I know that was very dry. I'm sorry, not technology, education. Technology and education, rather. But and so I know that was kind of dry there. But let's now talk about another aspect of governance when it comes to like not just instructional design, but the aspect of ruling society, interdimensionally rather. And so you have this idea of supply and demand. Now, you guys know supply and demand in the market, uh, in the law of water and the law of money, the way they run it here in the 3D room. Well, there is such a thing like supply and demand is important. It's you have the what we call like the one of the universal laws is the law of trade and exchange, the law of compensation, and so that is what that is based on. So supply and demand and governance is still important, but you're piloting a ship, and you're in governance you're piloting outer space. Okay, so this is different than the law of water admiralty law in which the governments are based on. Those are two very different concepts. And so that governance is based on supply and demand. Now, that supply and demand could be of electrons, that can be of photons, but that would usually be what that particular species, whatever is used to um, keep the system going, to keep the balance of the universe going. So that's what supply and demand means in that sense. On this planet, I don't mean to say it like that. In this system, in this government, supply and demand means money markets, and money is currency, based on the law of water, and on corporations. Corporations are people essentially. They corporatize the human body, the human soul. You get a birth certificate when you're born. You come out of the mother's waters as through her vessel, through her birth canal. Again, if you guys, I get this. I want to be upfront that I got these teachings. As far as like learning about the law of water, the law of admiralty, the law of money, that comes from Jordan Maxwell. He's been doing that for like 60 years. And so it's only fair that I give credit to where credit is due. Now he studies obviously legalese and money markets and uh I don't want to really get into what else he studies, but he's really deep. But so he understands this stuff. But if you study the way the financial system is ran now, and then you study not just the financial system, but the terms that we use, even with the word doctor, the doc, come out the birth canal from the vessel, you get a birth certificate that the doc signs, and it's everything is with the water. It's the law of water, and it's the same thing in the market, in the money market, liquid assets, currency. You can see it in the court system with the when they talk about like bailing someone out. You use water to bail out. The whole system is based on the law of water. That's the government that we just talked about, governs your social mind control. That's what the definition of government means in the Columbia Encyclopedia. And so when I talk about governance, particularly the Queen Mothership governance, we completely trump the law of water because we are universal and we galactic. And Queen Mothership's laws is based on the laws of the universe. And the universe, the ingredients of the universe created water. And so when I was putting out the Queen Mothership material and all that, it was very methodical. Yes, it was chaos intelligence, and yes, it was like, okay. But that's why the powers that be was like, like, hold up. And so what I was doing with Black Americans at the time, I think it would take them years to study like fully on like what I was doing, and what I'm still doing. But I took a pivot because again, those same people, the gatekeepers of those groups, and talking about like the reparations movement and this justice advocacy, that whole space is heavily infiltrated. For one, conscious community infiltrated with CIA, everything, anything you can think of. And and so you got a bunch of people that's like, okay, we just for play. We got these nonprofit organizations that are making money, acting like they're advocating for social justice. Like, they getting checks from, these different like Rockefeller organizations, all that stuff. And then here you got real people, like real grassroots people like me, and we're like, yo, we want justice, like we really want to see changes. And it's like, hold up. And so, it is what it is, but the information is out there. That's all I can say. and we're moving past the age of information. And so action is important, but also uh action from the mental space, and action from the spiritual space, heart and spirit and mind, will move things a lot faster in consciousness than actually having to do a lot of physical work. That's something else that Black Americans need to understand going forward. That most of the things that you're going through, believe it or not, is dependent on resonance in your state of consciousness. So let's actually get into the laws of the universe, because I think I covered that. So obviously the laws of the universe. Again, there's more than 12, but Tahuti in particular, when he was touching down, and again, this was Atlantean was a dimension. Atlantis was a dimension, even though he has that Atlantean code. That was a dimension that visited all continents on this earth plane. That is why you see, like, when people say, well, where is Atlantis, you see all these, like, you see, like, all of these arguments about, oh, Atlantis was in Africa, Atlantis is in India, Atlantis is in America, Atlantis, this lost city that's now underwater. It was a dimension. And so the beings from Atlantis touched down on all continents. This was a mission. They were sent down here to give out information to the Mayans, to the Aztecs, to the Inca, to the Inca tribes, to the tribes of Mexico and North America, to the Africans, whether that be Egypt, West Africa, North Africa, to India, to China. That is why you see these the similar pyramid structures. How do they build these pyramids? How do they build these Olmec heads? How do they? Through levitation, electromagnetism, through intergalactic mentalism. Nothing big here. But they something that could totally be done now, but again, they beat down humans' confidence. They beat down humanity's confidence, and this system that's set up the way it is. They don't want humans awakening to their full potential, their full connection with God energy, their full connection with love energy, their full connection of just their brain. Humans are only using about 10% of their brain. They're only aware of only certain parts of it. They call in your DNA junk DNA. That DNA is not junk. That DNA is the DNA that's going to have your ass bringing thunder. You activate that quote unquote junk DNA, that's going to be the DNA that have your ass pointing at the sky and thunder going to come. You say rain come, rain come. This is what Yeshua was talking about with the intergalactic mentalism. You believe nothing will be impossible for you. You have the faith of a mustard seed. You see to that mountain go from here to yonder, and it will move. And when the disciples were so, like, shocked, like, oh, even the wind obeys him, even the storms obeys him. What do you think he was talking about? That's what he was talking about. It's like he activated this quote unquote junk DNA. I mean, it's much deeper. It's so much deeper. I left a lot of codes around, but this DNA that they're calling junk is not junk DNA at all. It is the DNA that is dormant, that if awakened would fully tap you into full awareness of who you are as a human, your full power, your full God consciousness. And so the first law of the universe is the law of divine oneness. You guys pretty much know that. That is a foundational law. And that just states that everything is interconnected. The primordial ingredients that is used for the compositions of life is the same primordial ingredients that is in the composition of water, rocks, minerals, you name it. Now, the level of consciousness within things are different. So the rock gradual evolution is different from obviously a mammal or a human, but in all, it's still interconnected. Earth is a dimension of space. You're still connected to the universe. You're still connected to the galaxy. The chemical compositions in hydrogen peroxide and many of the crystallized formations is stuff that can be found in your body. I'm not saying all of it, but I'm just saying, like, oxygen, nitrogen, potassium, sodium. It's all interconnected. And so the law of oneness, I mean, it takes an experiential experience, like experiential awakening to really understand the law of oneness. And that's usually through meditation. That's usually when you awaken your, if you awaken your crown chakra, you would see that interconnection, and you would see things like isms go away, as far as like race-based consciousness, racism, all of these isms that people separate themselves into, religious fundamentalism. All of those things will fade once you have a deep understanding of the law of oneness. The next one is the law of vibration. And so every particle in the universe is in a constant movement, and it carries energy. Okay. And so you have varied degrees of that vibration, but everything is vibrating, even if it looks stagnant, even if it's so dense that it appears physical, that it has, that's why when you hear, like when you hear them cars moving, when you hear your refrigerator, that little noise that refrigerator makes, everything got a vibration. And when you hear, everything is in constant movement. And so you have these quantum particles, or whether they're atoms, electrons, and protons, vibrating at a certain degree of speed that gives you these different appearances of frequencies. And so, I think they say we can only see like visible light, but then you have infrared rays, you have gamma ray, you have all different types of light frequencies, energy frequencies rather. And so high, everything carries its own specific energy frequency, and high energy particles are naturally attuned to other high energy particles. And the same is true for that with low energy particles. That's why when you try to force low vibrations with a high vibration, somebody's gonna cancel somebody out. Either the high vibrating being, if they're not solid enough, they're gonna descend, or that low vibrating being is going to ascend, or you motherfuckers is gonna separate. There's just no way you guys can even be in close proximity. Most of the time, it's a proximity thing. You guys just will falter off into your own proximity based on your resonance. If not that, uh, you run, if you're a high vibrating being, you run the risk of descending if you are around a lot of low vibrational energy. But everything vibrates. And sometimes, like that's why people like the crystals. Like when we look at these crystals, Oregon pyramids with the copper and all that stuff, all of that carries a vibration. And crystals are very much I don't want to say this because then it's like, okay, that is so unscientific, but um they have a level of consciousness. A rock, certainly, like as we know, black tourmaline is one of the only crystals that I think shungite does too, so don't hold me on that, but the tourmaline itself, I do know, carries an electric charge. You can literally generate electricity from black tourmaline. Yes, you can. And so that clearly, if your body is also electromagnetic, but then you got a tourmaline crystal that also has electromagnetic field, that speaks to some level of not sentience, but certainly some level of consciousness. And so, you have these crystals, and people get the selenite and malachite, amethyst, whatever you could think of, and they carried this certain information. They carry ancient information with them. Like I think unakite, like we talking about millions of years old. Moldavite, like millions of years old of knowledge, of experience of the earth. And so when people get those crystals and they charge them or they use them and they whatever they're doing for their intentionality, you better believe it's based on the law of vibration. And so the law of vibration is very important in the universe, and it's a constant and will always be. Thanks, Amaruxi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I see your comment. Thanks for that. Um, Also, the next law is the law of correspondence. And so that relates to the law of oneness. And that key idea here is that there is repeat patterns throughout the universe, the law of correspondence, and that there's prominent patterns can also be found on the micro level and the macro level. And so, for example, you see this idea of the spiral. Spirals are going to be so important because we're building out a whole new code that's not going to be binary. Like right now, you guys use binary zeros and ones to build like your computer codes out. And it's very linear logic based. And so at the age of the divine feminine, quite frankly, we're going to be doing everything in spirals and everything outside of a binary code. And so, for example, you see Fibonacci sequences. They you see like spirals and you know certain you see the pine cone. You see like you see various patterns. The pine cone is not a good example of a spiral, but I do know the Fibonacci, or even the way like certain flowers look, um, even the way water, you know, certain patterns that some of these animals make in the water with the spirals. Those are all an aspect of correspondence. Or even if you look at how the galaxy looks, you just see repeat patterns elsewhere in the world. And so the law of correspondence is very important. Then you have obviously the law of attraction. That relates to the law of vibration, in terms of frequency. And you know, the more general the general lesson here is that positive and proactive and loving attracts more of the same that you are in life. So you have to actually vibrate what you want to see and your reality. And believe it or not, that's one of the secrets. Like the law of most people, they don't apply the law of attraction, right? They have this conscious thought in their head, but they're not programming it properly in their prime conscious mind, which you guys call the subconscious mind. And so you have to feel that through the emotional body. You have to be that, and you have to act as if it's already there. Then you have the action aspect, and that is where you know, that's what activates this law of attraction. So if there's any sense of like fear or lethargy or doubt, then when you're thinking of your intentions or your manifestations, then more of those experiences are going to uh, appear in your life. And so the law of attraction teaches us how to deal with the emotional body, and how to actually move and feeling through the heart space. Now we always talk about the brain, the logic aspect of the mind, but believe it or not, the heart has a nervous system, and they're actually doing some research on this. The heart generates obviously electromagnetic field that can reach out 8 feet. Then you have that aligning with your gut. You have and the gut has its own nerves, more nerves, damn near than the same amount of nerves as the brain. And so all that's where you get your feeling and your intuition. It's connected to your prime conscious, your higher self, which down on a 3D realm or a 5D realm on Earth, you guys call it subconscious mind. It's not beneath anything. Is not nothing is hidden about it. It's just an aspect of your auto conscious, and that's an aspect of your higher self. And so you have to program that with the feelings from the heart space, as well as your intentions and then your action. And that is what activates the law of attraction. This is what Tootie, this is what honestly, this is what a lot of the ascended masters have mastered. Particularly the one I can think of is Buddha and Yeshua. Buddha chose more of asceticism. um Yeshua chose intergalactic mentalism, but he did like to show and flex, you know, like I turn fish to, and people don't have to believe that, but I've seen like the thing is people do this stuff to this day. It's just that they're in secret, very secret orders where you are heavily monitored. Like if you go study like some of the teachings of the Koala Upanishad, where you start applying the stuff that Shiva and Kali were talking about, some of them tantric texts, and you start learning how to control weather and all this stuff. Now you can do this on your own, but say you actually go to the order and join through their schools of thoughts and become a member of it, uh, they won't let you'll be monitored for the rest of your life, for one, with that kind of knowledge and power. And a lot of times you have to take an oath to actually stay in their monastery for the rest of your damn life. uh, and so my bet would be to not do that, to actually learn how to activate all on your own, how to do all this stuff all on your own. And so but even still, the amount of like it gets deep. But anyways, there are people to this day that can do that, that can uh work with weather, manifest at will, teleport, all types of stuff. Is they just keep it real hidden. They're not putting it out there. And that's why Yeshua caught a lot of slack, because he was just out there calming the waves and the wind and all that stuff, and it just was what it was. But I know for a fact that people can do this stuff to this day. I won't get too deep into that. Yeah, then you have the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. And so everything around us is in a constant state of flux. Everything changes. And in Anaki philosophy that I wrote, we talk about V2, which is content. Anything that is enters your physical state while you're in a physical flesh. That content It's called V2 because it is constantly impermanent and is dualistic. And it's external to the self. And so everything you have to transmute all of the content around you. Everything is in a constant state of flux at a cellular and atomic level. Okay. And so the law of transmutations helps you to deal with trauma, helps you to deal with how to ascend from a low frequency to a high frequency. And so that's why the law of transmutation is very powerful. Alchemy teaches you how to transmute things. The Naki philosophy that I wrote, that also teaches a more up to date process of how to literally transmute one state of consciousness to a higher state of consciousness based off of your intentions and what level, what state of consciousness you want to be at. And so, say you're just concerned with being at a magician level. There are actions and certain processes of governing all faculties of the mind to get you to that level. Say if someone just wants to be more in a mindful state, then there's the transcendent state, then there's the wise, the wisdom state, then there's just earth-based state. Like you really not concerned with too much. You just want to get through your day. The Naki philosophy teaches all about that, and it's ledger based, so it's based on what level you want to be at. But it also, most importantly, teaches you how to explore the content of your mind through a process of determining what is inauspicious, what serves you, what doesn't serve you. What do you want to keep as far as the content that enters your prime conscious mind? What do you want to let go? And once you decide on that, there's like a whole chart in the book where it's called the Chati of self chart. So it's just a chart of the mind, the layers of the mind that you organize, and then that allows you to decide like what kind of state of consciousness you want, what actually do you want to manifest, and then you have to organize the energies within the mental energy, your physical energy, the etheric energy, and the emotional energy into one direction, and then boom. And you do this, you can do this in quantum seconds, nanoseconds. But with the philosophy itself, it takes a bit of time. And so for me, it was important for me to get to a certain level in terms of mastery of the soul. I wasn't necessarily concerned with like, oh, I gotta have all this money, I gotta have all this, all these tangible material things. And so for me, it was more so the path that I took is not so much asceticism, because I'm more of on the middle path, but it was very important for me to experience bliss consciousness, God consciousness. And so that's what I use my own philosophy system for. But there's examples of how you would use it if, for business. And I actually am more applying the Nakti philosophy more to the business. And so it's like, okay, well, I got that aspect of what I wanted. So now I gotta actually generate some income, because it's never been important to me. But we're still, in a system where you gotta have income and work to live and shit. But let's keep going. That's the energy, the law of transmutation of energy. Very important. So then you have the law of cause and effect. Obviously, that law tells us that all actions have a corresponding action. And so many of you already know that in all, this is really the true definition of what karma means, by the way. Karma was always, these are the causes, now here are the effects. This action leads to this reaction. And so the law of cause and effect is big, not just in the universe, but obviously you could see that manifest very easily in your everyday life. You reap what you sow. Like that's real shit. The next is the law of compensation. That just states that what you receive, you will receive what you put out. And so the law of compensation is very important, particularly in the law of water, which is used here in the financial markets. They work on the law of compensation. Also supply and demand it kind of relates to this law as well. But yes, what you put out is what you receive, and you can look at that as you reap what you sow as well. And so the law of compensation is also very relevant to the universe. And we're talking about in terms of governance. This is what humans are going to go towards. They're not going to want government. They will appreciate governance. And for those that didn't hear the breakdown of the difference between government and governance, and we broke down the suffix and the prefix of govern, and then ment, and then its. And then we got into a little bit of the law of water, which is based on which is what a government is based on this dimension, versus the law of governance, which is based on the universal laws in the Queen Mothership, which trumps the law of water. And so we were talking about like the legalese and shit like that earlier. So maybe you guys catch the replay. The next one is the law of relativity. That is that there is a neutrality of things when seen in isolation. And so the value laden aspect kind of lessens when you look at this law. So for instance, context matters in a situation where we talk about, okay, you shouldn't, you know, they say, oh, killing is bad. Okay, yes, killing is bad. What if somebody breaks in your house and you have a baby that you need to defend, and you ended up taking a pan or something of some sort and knocking them over the head, and you ended up killing them? It was self-defense. So it's relative. You know, it's like it depends on the context. But then what if somebody just is coveting and so covetous that they break into someone's house to steal from them, and then they ended up killing the person that they're trying to steal from? That is obviously abhorrent. That's like, oh my gosh. You know, so the context matters. And that's what the law of relativity teaches us, because it's like, okay, when we talk about responsibility and ethics and morality, you have to have that law of relativity, because you have to look at things from, okay, is this truly low governing force in terms of infringing on a human's or species consent, and their highest well-being and their highest good? Do we see infringing of rights, you know, or do we see a upholding of rights when we talk about self-defense? And so in terms of governance, the law of relativity is important, because there are certain, like when we talk about consent as a child, you know, they would like the way the government now, they trying to find a way to allow, you know, crazy, ridiculous things to happen to children. And so in a governance, you would think about the development aspects and capacities of a child when it comes to exposing them to sexuality. Like they have this thing where they're bringing in this content of sexuality into the schools with these children, even trying to justify you know, sexualizing children and whatnot. And so obviously with the law of relativity, a child's brain is not developed. They have very few. They don't have an understanding of what consent means, and so from if we're talking about low governing force, infringing upon a child's in any type, infringing upon a child would be considered low governing force in regards to the law of relativity. It wouldn't be something we would allow or something that we would see as justifiable. One, because that child is not fully developed in its mental capacity, and so that's what we would say for the law of relativity. Then another person would come and argue a different case for that, but then you would have to start to quantify that. You would then bring in the law of polarity. You would then bring in the law of rhythm, and with that, that's when you start to quantify the cases of people who have been violated as children, and they would tell you themselves, you know, what do they feel, what did they, how did that impact them? And most adults that have been violated as children, they all say the same thing: I didn't want that, it messed me up. You got all these, you know. So that's just an example of how you would apply like the law of relativity for those that it's like, well, this idea of morality, it's like, well, we can do whatever we want, you know, or morality is relative and subjective, and to an extent, and to a degree, sure. But then there are measures, there are you know, control mechanisms in which you can determine whether or not it's quantifiable in terms of the highest the highest well-being for a species, for whether that be children, whether that be women, whether that be men in society at large. So let's talk about the law of polarity. The law of polarity just states that everything has an opposite, and that its very existence of those opposites allows us to understand life. And so think of like a thermostat where where you see the temperature go from, there's hot and then there's cold, and so it's a polarity, it's a degree. And so it's not so much a duality in a sense where there's just this dichotomy. It's either or. It's a degree on a spectrum. And so the thermostat is the best example that I can think of, that when you think of something going from hot to cold, and you got to, take your finger and move that dial of what degree of polarity do you want to be on. Sexuality is a good example of the fluidity of sexual orientation, would be one I can think of offhand. But polarity, um, that could be, you can use that with morality as well, to determine the degree of spectrum. Also, love and fear is on a spectrum of polarity. It's like a dial. Do you want to be more on the spectrum of fear, or do you want to be more on a spectrum of love? And so that's where the law of polarity would come in. The next one is the law of rhythm. That just states that everything is in perpetual movement and motion, and that's just like your seasons. You have 4 seasons. The aging process of being a baby, going into teen years, going into adult, then dying. This birth and death. Those are all rhythm. You can also think of it as a pendulum swinging. What goes up must come down. What goes around must come. What goes around must come around. And so it's just phases and stages, but nothing is permanent. So you have to enjoy it while it lasts. Also, if you're in a negative part of the cycle, just know that there's like this song that we used to sing. For those of you that have some familiarity with Baptist uh, songs, it says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning light." And so that's another aspect of the law of rhythm. Nothing is permanent, and so the moments where you feel that you're down, or oh, this is not working out, it is always going to change around. It's always going to switch, and vice versa. When you have that wheel of fortune, think of the wheel of fortune of the tarot card, and you see it going around and around in a circle. Or that's very much the law of rhythm. Um the process, and the cycle, everything coming in cycles. One minute you're sad, the next minute you're happy. And that's why, the Nike philosophy teaches you don't get attached to none of that. You don't get attached to the ebb and flow, and the V2, the content that causes you to moments of distress and moments of happiness. Once you can go beyond that mind process of being attached to it, then you can overcome what Yeshua was saying, overcome the world. Then you can overcome the content that enters the processes of the mind, and you can you can defy this law of rhythm, is basically what I'm saying, for your benefit, and so that you're constantly in a bliss state of consciousness. And so the law of rhythm is very good for understanding. Also, uh, this pendulum, this idea of this pendulum swinging, the boomerang. Um, Things don't last long. So even if you see this injustice in the world, you see all this injustice, we're in a big shift. We're in a major shift, change of guard for humanity and for planet Earth. And so you're going to see like things that was so unfair, people that was getting shitted on, people that was the last, and those that was being censored and blocked because they're gifted and because they have talent. You're going to see the universe bends towards justice. The universe bends towards balance and rhythm. You're going to see that pendulum switch right on the other side. You can't just, it's prophecy. It's like nothing. You can't just oppress a group of people for hundreds of years, or you can't just shit on. It balances out because the universe bends towards that innovation, and it wants to evolve, not just through this process of biological evolution, but certainly the evolution of consciousness itself. And so now we have the law of gender. Law of gender, believe it or not, has little to do with like the biological sex. It just refers to like the divine feminine and divine masculine in terms of energy, in terms of the ideas of electromagnetism, your protons and your electrons. That's on like the more quantum level, but there on this level, in the micro level, as far as like a human male, human female, you would see that as certain characteristics of the divine feminine and divine masculine. And so I wrote a whole book called The Law of Gender, talking about this information. But there's just a balance of the yin and the yang, or the anima and the animus. And both genders, whether you're male or female, you have a capacity to tap into those energies. The divine masculine and divine feminine exist within all of us simultaneously. It's just, which one gets fed more, which energy do you feel more comfortable with, which energy allows you to live more authentically. And so that's the law of gender. The book that I wrote, it dwelled deep into like the laws of electromagnetism, as well as at that time I was into the shadow work stuff. So it was emphasizing like shadow work prompts for males and females to get into, and some tips on how to like become in tune with the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And we based it off of some of the more esoteric knowledge of electromagnetism, as well as like some of the esoteric text of like the mythology of Kali and Shiva, uh, as well as Lilith and Adam and Eve and all that. And so it was just me pretty much putting codes together from the mythological point of view, and then studying it from the scientific point of view, in terms of like the Kabbalion law of gender that Tahuti was talking about. And so the book it just covers all that stuff. And so yeah, that's the law of gender. That's one of the laws in the universe. More is being revealed to humanity. There are obviously more than 12 laws of the universe. I mean, come on. We live in a galaxy here. So there's obviously more, believe it or not. Certain species actually know how to change the laws of the universe at will, or I would say the laws of physics at will, depending on what dimension that they're at. So you're going to see some really cool things with humanity as more information gets revealed, all for the enlightenment of humanity, and also for propelling planet Earth forward, as we shift from 5D to 7D, because that's what's coming next. Like that, just like you see millions of people awakening and going to 5D, and then you probably in your everyday life you see people shifting up on you, changing up on you. You're literally, some of you may even start to see like some people literally be agents in your life, like they have soul contracts that they don't make pacts with to literally block your gift and light from expressing in this world, and they receive a reward on the back end from blocking out your light. Believe it or not, it's shit like that going down on planet Earth too. It's actually been that way for thousands of years, since the overthrow of the goddess iconography. Believe it or not, it's a bit different from the overthrow of the Queen Mothership. This was an energetic overthrow. How do I get into this without getting so occultic? But even within the divine feminine itself on the God level. And so you see all of the goddess iconography torn down systematically worldwide, whether that be from the African systems, the American indigenous systems, the Sumerian, the Babylonian, the original Judaic system. All of these systems, there was a switch 2,000 years ago from the goddess iconography to, like, even if you look at the quote unquote story of Enki and Enlil and Marduk and Tiamat and all that, you see that, because there's some people that have a lot of knowledge about that. And so when we talk about like this constant overthrow of female goddesses, that was energetic, and that affected the human race. And so that system that was set up, that overthrew the law of governance, which was based on universal law, to set up this law, this system based on the law of water, which perverted the divine feminine. It's still based on the divine feminine, it's just a perverted version led by men. That's what the law of money and the law of the admiralty law that the United States government is based on is still trying to run on. And so you have the real age of the divine feminine, and you have the ancient ones, and you have like these real energies of the divine feminine floodgating this planet, and they're like, you fucked up my shit. Like, this is not what are you guys doing here? And so so that's why there's so much shift coming. And in this age of Christ consciousness, even that's connected, believe it or not. Yeah, but that system where people get stifled and all of these laws of the universe get violated, that was set up around the time when there was that overthrow of that goddess iconography, then obviously the law, the overthrow of the queen mothership amongst melanated people. Yeah, it's deep. So that contract deal system that's been in place, that's like it's so low level in a universe eyes. Uh, Particularly maybe not like like the how do I say this? It's certain interdimensional beings eyes of we just see that system as like so low governing force is not even funny. And so you're going to see this shift. You're going to see people shift to considerably great heights in their awareness. And it's a good time. It's a good time to be alive. um for those of us who had always wanted to focus on justice, who always wanted to focus on righteousness, who always want to focus on just, even if it's not that, just enlightenment, just our own divinity, our own seeing humanity thrive. Like we just pure hearts, like we really just was in this world focusing on the lighthearted stuff and working on ourselves. And we see, like, every time we turn around, motherfuckers been trying to block our light and stuff. All that's done. All that's coming to an end. It already has. Like, we already won. It's just that through the quantum tunneling, we have to things have to play out in slower time, in this 3D 5D time, will you. And so that's what I'll leave here with. I think I covered all 12 laws. Yeah, there's definitely more than 12 laws. We will be revealing that information of some more laws as this governance system gets ushered in. Uh Even if I'm not the one to do it, that's fine. But somebody will pick it up and realize, we need a governance based on universal law versus a government which is based on social mind control, that is based on a perverted versions of the divine laws of the divine feminine laws of water. It's like, what the hell? Like, somebody gonna be able to put them codes together, and we'll have a better system. So I'll leave you guys with that. I'll talk to you later. Uh, Bye. Oh, expensive taste. Thank you. What did you say? I wanted to, let me see what you said. I wanted to study the laws, and here you are. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome there. Okay, and then she said something. Uh, yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.